I never ask anybody these questions. I never ask anybody, are you scared of Bigfoot?
Keep your skepticals on. The deeper I've gotten into the subject, the more skeptical I've become.
Let me get all my gear on and go walk a Bigfoot down. It's not gonna happen. I don't care who you are, it's not gonna happen.
Over the course of this series, I have explored the research efforts of the Olympic Project and how they, as a group, have shifted over time. From its inception with Derek Randall's and his trail cams, to the forward momentum brought on by the audio analysis of Chris Spencer, the Olympic Project is a group that focuses on what works, something I've realized over the past year that I've documented them. I won't hide the fact that this series means a lot to me as both a filmmaker and a human being. And I feel the need to document my own personal journey to properly conclude and commemorate the experience of creating it. We're blazing new trails. My introduction to the Olympic Project was in 2021, working on the very first project I ever did with Small Town Monsters. So I got here the Mega Bigfoot coffee from Bigfoot Java. The flavor is extreme. I think it's Bigfoot Extreme Chocolate or something like that. It's got 5 shots of espresso in there.
This guy's gonna be, his hands are gonna be like shaking.
Yes, I'm gonna chug this all before I meet Seth Breedlove for the first time. It was my first time meeting the Small Town Monsters crew, so you could say that it was a pretty good trip right off the bat. And the first day, while at Mount Rainier with Alex and visiting the nest site for the first time, I felt amazing. However, when I woke up the next morning, I was as sick as a dog.
Oh boy, that looked rough.
For the rest of the 5 or 6 days we were there, I was chugging Dayquil and ibuprofen as I hiked through the nest area, which is not easy, even when you're not sick. Oh, crap. I've been on this hike up and down, more times than I can count, more times than I care for. And I'm probably gonna do it a couple more times today. But it wasn't a miserable experience by any means. I had a ton of fun meeting Seth for the first time.
Action.
What's up? Welcome to my crib. My name's Seth Breedlove. This is my boy, Eli Watson.
I'm Eli Watson, and you're watching Disney Channel. And of course, meeting the main focus of this series, Shane Corson, Todd Hale, Chris Spencer, Rebecca Slick, as well as other people who didn't make it into this series, like Cindy Cadell. One of my favorite memories from that first trip is when Cindy gave me a book about baboons, just out of the kindness of her heart.
If you want it, you can have it.
No,
honestly, I've given it away before.
This
so,
is too much.
Let me make sure that I don't have anything in there.
Yeah,
$1 bills.
Yeah, but it's all yours.
that's
You'll
incredibly
enjoy it.
generous of you.
Oh no, it's
Thank
not.
you.
I love his work, and you will too.
Oh my
So-
goodness, this is crazy.
It's really cool because he goes between human nature and baboon nature from chapter to chapter, and it's like he isn't pointed out exactly, but it's so obvious he's trying to compare them.
Right.
Yeah, so you'll like
Oh
it.
shit. Sorry, Cindy, I still have not read that book. What I didn't realize at the time was just how unique that filming experience was. While I wouldn't say I've ever had an outright bad film shoot, I haven't had any that compared to how that trip went. From the stunning vistas of the Olympic Peninsula, to the way that the OP just took me in and treated me like one of their own, it was truly an experience like no other. And as I traveled the country and quickly realized that not all people are that welcoming, the desire to return back to Washington and to work with the OP began to grow in me. And so in September of 2023, that's exactly what I did. I returned to Washington to make this series, except this time everything was different for me. When I came out in 2021, I was filled with excitement to start this Bigfoot journey. By September of 2023, I was not. I had almost no interest in Sasquatch at that point in my life. I didn't really want to make a show about people looking for Bigfoot and film people knocking on trees and doing howls. The subject matter, and I'll be honest, a lot of the people involved with the research were making it very difficult to find any kind of enjoyment making these kinds of documentaries. But I actually think that helped me make this show what it is. Let me explain. I had a rapport with the Olympic Project. They liked me from the time I went out there in 2021, and from other visits I made to the PNW where I saw them. But I feel like a true bond and friendship was formed during this September trip. We spent several days at the Olympic Project cabin, and one night we camped in the mountains behind it. It was here during that night that the typical roles of interviewer and interviewee were reversed, and the OP guys grilled me on why I was making this show. So everything I want to do with this project, and all the reasons I'm asking, the questions I'm asking, is because I never ask anybody these questions. I never ask anybody, are you scared of Bigfoot? I never ask anybody, what if it's not real? You know?
Right.
I never ask these questions, and I know you guys can handle that and answer honestly. And it's for me, it's almost like all the questions I'm asking myself.
Huh.
And I'm like, okay.
Dude, you should include what you just said right now. You should include that in your.
I'm
that
planning
actually,
on it.
the way you worded that sounded raw and honest.
That's where I'm at.
That's
and I'm
really cool.
And that's why I'm asking about the frustrations. I've always attributed a healing factor to the Pacific Northwest. Every time I go, I have experiences that change me in some way, and that night was definitely a pivotal moment for me. I was able to talk to the OP about my life in a way that I don't often with other people. I was able to open up and really just relieve some tension. And all that tension forced me to pursue a different direction for the series than I might have otherwise. It pushed me to dig deeper into a journalistic approach than I ever had before. I didn't want to create a Bigfoot fluff piece. I wanted to tell a story about real people and why they search for what many consider to be a mythical being. My openness also created a bond with the OP that I don't think would exist if it hadn't happened that way. I was able to completely trust them with my frustrations, and they completely trusted me to film them in their most raw moments. You're on camera now.
Oh, great.
What do you have
to say?
What do you have to say for yourself?
You don't want me to start. I have nothing to say about myself.
Nothing?
I don't know. What do you want me to say?
How hardcore are you?
I'm softcore.
Softcore?
Softcore, yeah.
Softcore Corson.
Softcore.
That's your new name.
I get called a lot of things. If I'm called softcore, I'll live with that. That's pretty easy to go with. That's nothing. Yeah.
I consider them my friends, my true friends, and I'm very thankful for that.
Oh, he's coming on.
And so I would like to discuss why they're all my friends. How you feeling, Shane?
Feeling pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah. How could you feel bad with a view like this?
Yeah. Shane is the type of guy who would give you the shirt off his back. Shane's generosity goes as far back as the first time I met him, when he let me borrow some extra camping gear because I didn't have enough. And from camping with him in Mount Hood to working with him on this series, Shane is the most giving person I think I've met.
Let me get a whiff.
Oh! Knock you over.
The fourth one, actually I have 4, but it's underneath your tent, so.
Yeah.
He's let me crash at his house so many times that I actually feel a little bad because I appreciate him so much and I don't want to take advantage of him. So back in December of 2023, I treated Shane and his family to a trip to the San Diego Zoo. Hardcore Corson goes to the zoo.
Rocky. Are these the orangs over here?
Yeah, you want to see them?
Yeah. It's the orang pendek. Looks like a dookie in here. This is pretty cool. There's a little Todd. Look at that little Todd go. Where'd he go? Oh, there he is. Hey Todd, come back. Oh, going for a nap. Typical Todd. The Hale Meister going for a little nap. Oh, yep. Night night, Todd. You little red-headed son of a gun.
It's your cousin, Shane.
Yep. Cousin Eddie.
Oh, you're therming.
Indeed.
Shane, what are you doing?
I'm just trying to get some heat signatures from the different animals here. Now I'm looking at an elephant.
You know what's funny? This thing's pecker's hanging down and it's super hot.
Incredible flavor. Thanks, Todd, for suggesting that I bother Shane by filming him on a family vacation. And thanks, Shane, for being such a good sport about it. Thank you. Shane is just one of those genuine people. He has a genuine love for the outdoors and for wildlife and, of course, Sasquatch. And he's just a good soul to be around. Todd wanted this to be 2 hours, and I don't think I can even get 1 hour out of this.
No. Sorry. That's all you get.
And I truly appreciate everything he's done for me, including filming me while I sang karaoke. Yeah, that's enough of that. Wait, so what are we gonna do?
I don't know, probably jumping jacks, push-ups, pull-ups.
I was thinking about doing a kickflip.
Now that takes us to American badass Todd Hale. Now Todd can be real rough around the edges.
That bird and you.
So rough that some people don't even like him, including myself when I first met him. You see, the first time I ever met Todd was the first time I went to the nest site. It was raining that night, which is honestly probably why I got sick, and Todd was standing by a fire, cussing up a storm as he talked about how much he hates the rain. And I just thought, wow, they really let this guy just hang around. But by the end of the week, Todd and I were best friends.
Hey, Eli.
What's up?
How's this?
Oh, wow, that looks... You know what? Hold on. Wait, hold on. Do it again. I'm going to take a photo. Turns out that under that tough exterior, Todd is just a cool dude who likes fast-moving vehicles and looking for Bigfoot. Alright, we're going to start with the basic questions. You ready?
I guess.
What is the Olympic Project?
That's what we're starting with?
Yeah. And while Todd may claim that he doesn't like to be on camera, he's always offering to film more.
Elias. Knocked up above us.
I heard you guys talking about it.
I didn't hear it because I was moving in the tent, but it was when Chris got up. He was walking around the Pearson place. We still got to film the stories here for the daytime.
Yeah.
In many ways, Todd provides the intangible glue for the OP. And don't forget, he's been swinging hard since '76.
Dude, I've been swinging hard since 1976. You better ready, boy. Ready, boy.
Now let's talk about Chris and Rebecca. I'm going to talk about both of them at the same time because they are the dynamic duo of the OP. And my relationship with them is interesting because I don't think I hit it off with them as well as I did with Shane and Todd back in 21. My friendship was really formed during the making of this series, and I don't have enough good things to say about them. Chris is just a real person. He says it like it is. He doesn't exaggerate or embellish. He's also so scientifically minded, it's crazy. Like doing survey work in the nest area so that he can create a mathematically accurate representation of the nest site on paper. Or plotting out the trackway that he found and documenting it so thoroughly that there's essentially no doubt of what left those tracks. And that doesn't even begin to cover the insane amount of work he put into the audio project. Chris is probably the most dedicated researcher I personally know. The amount of work and the quality of work Chris puts into his research is inspiring.
Chris, can you take me home? Not right now, Eli. We're doing important work here. And you're part of it.
Why don't you tell us what we're doing?
I'm going to take you out to a specific tree and duct tape you to it, and then smear peanut butter all over you. Set up a therm on you.
Okay.
And Rebecca is a true naturalist. She really takes the time to look at the plants and understand the ecosystem of an area in a way that I just don't have a grasp on.
Is that a blackberry?
Yeah.
No kidding. Is this good to eat?
Oh yeah. Really
I mean, she will really take the time to look around her. And when she's studying the environment, she is completely fearless. Just completely comfortable by herself out in the woods.
And the guys are leaving me. So it's the one good thing about hanging out with these guys is they treat me so much as an equal. Like they don't wait for me and worry about me when I'm in the woods getting left behind. And those berries were bitter. Oh my.
And she's probably the most camera shy out of all of the members of the OP, preferring to be behind the camera, which I have to say, her camera work has contributed so much to this series. Her documentation of the OP throughout the years has really defined this series, and it would not be the same without her contribution. And additionally, she helped me film plenty of stuff while I was making this series, flipping the scenario on me and shoving a camera into my face.
Film me now.
Why?
Hey guys, it's Eli Watson, and you're watching
Small town monsters. One of the most fun things about Rebecca is her last name, Slick, which is famously the same last name as one of the first, if not the first, Sasquatch benefactor, the Texas oil tycoon Tom Slick, who funded many expeditions in the 50s and 60s. While Rebecca shares no relation to the late Tom Slick, it doesn't stop me from making an easy joke. Do you have anything to add, Rebecca?
No.
Why don't you tell us about your grandfather, Tom Slick? He had a lot to do with this field.
I should never have told you that I was in witness protection because you just keep blowing it.
But there's a third member of the Chris and Rebecca household who hasn't made his big screen debut until now. And that's Nugget. Hi, Nugget. Nugget is a quail. The first time I met Nugget was when he was an egg.
It's okay. I know there's a stranger. Stranger danger. Pew 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 pew. Pew pew. Pew pew.
And then he was a baby. And then he tried to attack me.
He's like, who are you and why are you in my house?
Ah! He's attacking me. He's attacking me.
Easy now.
And then he became best friends with my girlfriend. If Nugget was a person, I would have a lot of things to say. But aside from being punked by a quail, the way the OP has treated my girlfriend is another reason why I'm so thankful and proud to call these guys my friends. Back in January, I took Jasmine to Squatch Fest, and we stayed at Chris and Rebecca's. And Todd picked us up to take us to the event.
What, I gotta take my shoes off?
Yeah.
I ain't doing it.
We're civilized here.
Get in the
Todd.
truck.
And we surprised Shane because I told him I wasn't going. And Jasmine fell in love with Chris and Rebecca's cats, and so she bought them catnip toys from one of the vendors, which someone ended up throwing away. And obviously, Jasmine was very upset by this, and Rebecca stepped in and comforted her. But then Shane saved the day because he found them in the trash, and they were in a box, in a bag, in the trash bag. I don't know how he did it, but those are just true friends for you, and it's hard to come by. But there's more to this series than me just being friends with everyone. Meeting the Olympic Project back in 2021 was my first introduction to any Bigfoot group ever. I was meeting everyone for the first time. And so while now I have a small collection of Bigfoot casts, back then I only had one. This tiny Littlefoot right here. And that's actually what it's called, Littlefoot. And while I didn't know when I received it, it turns out that it was found and cast by a member of the Olympic Project, David Ellis. So of course I had to hear the story for myself when I interviewed him back in March of this year.
So when I first started going out into the field, I wanted to learn all aspects of it. And one of the things that became critical for collecting evidence was the ability to cast impressions. You never know when you were going to run across something. It was in the summer of 2006 at a BFRO expedition that we were at a reservoir where I found some barefoot impressions, and that wasn't really what inspired me. It was the look of the impression. It was really deep. It was really long and thin, not a typical Sasquatch impression, but it just caught my eye for whatever reason. I'm not sure why, but it did. Well, this particular foot I called Skinny Foot. And every year I go back, I'd find that impression, but it went from 11 inches to 14 inches to 15 and a half inches. So even though it looked really, really human to most people, there was something odd about it. It was the flat-footed nature of it. The shape didn't even look like a person's foot, which kind of has an hourglass look to it. This didn't have that. So anyway, I kept going back to this location because I wanted to get more impressions of Skinny Foot. So my wife is with me and another BFRO investigator, Scott Taylor. And so I'm over in one area and my wife and Scott are over in another area. And I get a call on the radio and it's my wife and she said, I found some really small impressions. You might be interested, you might not, but I think you should take a look at them. Okay. So I pack up my gear and I head over and I find them and they look childlike. They're 5 inches, 6 inches. And I tell her, well, since this is your first find, I will cast this for you. I don't think that they're related to what we're here. They don't look real suspicious, but I'll cast them anyway. So we continued on, and I did find some larger impressions that I did cast that day and spent the most of the day documenting and doing all of that. So now it's like 3 o'clock or so in the afternoon, and it's going to get dark, and I could tell my wife was ready to hit the road. And so we walk back, and I just about get to the car, and I realized, oh, I got to cast those impressions for my wife. And I said, give me 20 minutes. And I didn't take any of my gear that I would normally take to document what it was that I was finding. Usually I would do a write-up and all that. Cast the 3 impressions, and I had, oh gosh, maybe this amount of hydrocal left, and I was looking for a place to throw it down, get it out of the way, get it out of my bucket so I could clean it. And there it was, Littlefoot. And it was like 4 inches from my knee. I almost knelt on it. And thankfully I didn't. Thankfully I had enough hydrocal left over that I could smush it in there because I didn't bring any more than what I had taken to cast those little impressions. That turned out to be quite a find. It's 3 3/4 inches long. Across the ball of the foot, it's like 2.5 inches. And the heel is like 1.5 inches. It stepped on a stick. And there's so much fat on the bottom of the foot that the stick was swallowed up by the fatty tissue. And there was another displacement that was made. If you look at the foot, you can see that there's a mid-tarsal break to it, and that the foot, Dr. Meldrum uses the term supinated, where you could tell that it was kind of grasping. And that's not a typical 1-year-old trait to do with their foot. Later, when I cleaned up the casting that I did for my wife, I oriented the feet to how it was standing in relationship to where Littlefoot was found. And it kind of was an epiphany to me that whatever these 5 to 6 inch foot impressions were, they were holding Littlefoot because it only got 1 foot down. When I found Littlefoot, I scoured the area to see if there was any other impressions, and there was not. So it was, like I said, kind of an epiphany that I realized that it was holding on to Littlefoot, and it kind of wriggled free and got 1 foot down, and then it was picked back up. I don't tell this to too many people. I'll let them notice it themselves, but Littlefoot only imprinted 4 toes. a big toe, and then where the second toe should be, it's mud than the 3 other toes. So in total, it only has 4 toes. Well, what's interesting about the 5 and 6 inch footprints that were cast with Littlefoot, one foot only had 4 toes.
The missing 5th toe from Littlefoot is actually something I did not notice, and hints towards something more strange going on there. Possibly something I might look into in the future. But for now, I'm content with the full circle moment of finding out the story behind the first Bigfoot cast I ever owned. And David himself is an absolute joy to be around. He's very open and honest about his findings, and will admit, just like in the case of Littlefoot, that sometimes the best finds are an accident. Now there's one more person I want to talk about, who only appeared in the very first episode of this series, and that's Marcel. Many of you watching may know Mark as the guy who discovered the Ape Canyon cabin. But there's another interesting aspect to Mark that I want to showcase here that very few know about. So let's go back a little bit. After that night of camping behind the cabin in September, Chris and I drove to Westport, Washington, where Mark runs an aquarium. What's up, Chris?
Not much. Just enjoying the nice ocean atmosphere.
It's pretty chill out here, huh?
Didn't even know you were there.
Who the hell else is wearing an OP shirt around here?
Yeah, kind of stand out, don't it?
Yeah, I know.
Almost all of the tanks are all the original tanks built in '57. We've gotten to know almost all of the owners that have owned it. Coming from Aberdeen by the Elk River Bridge, there's Old Man Brady, Brady's Oysters. His dad started the oyster biz down there, and he was a high school student when his mom and dad built this. And the funny thing is about the tanks is that Brady's dad must have been like a concrete genius, because he just took his pickup down to the beach and loaded it up with sand, and he used the sand in order to do the concrete. And I would think that with the salt content in the sand, the concrete just would have but there was a window that was plexiglass, and I wanted to replace it with glass. So I took the plexiglass out, but then I had to, with a rotohammer, had to rabbet out a place for the new glass. And this concrete is so dang hard. It's incredibly hard. It almost it crystallized and got even harder through the years. It's really incredible.
Mark is one of the most interesting people I've met in my life. Every time Mark and I get together, there's usually a lot of drinking and playing guitar until the sun comes up.
Talking about Yolanda, Queen of the South, Yolanda, break my neck, Yolanda, make just the way I like it. I'm gonna take it out now.
He is insanely detail-oriented when it comes to historical Sasquatch research, or just anything historical at all. He can and will talk your ear off for hours about weird, obscure historical facts. I wish I had more footage of the Westport Aquarium, especially footage of Mark talking about how he got it or why he decided to buy it, because you would see immediately what I mean by everything I'm saying. I mean, just listen to what he has to say about historical research here.
Why do we preserve the pyramids? Why do we preserve Stonehenge? Why do I and my family preserve a 1957 aquarium? It's because those physical things that were laid down in the ground, whether it be a building, whether it be a site, whether it be George Washington's coat or his teeth or something, those items, those things, and the provenance of it, the story behind those physical items provide a touchstone for all of us as humans in a civilization to understand and have inspiration or have an idea about what happened before us. And ideally, archivists, librarians, history nerds, historical researchers have perhaps a starry-eyed ideal that with that research, with pursuing historical research, perhaps we'll be able to provide inspiration and provide something to different kinds of culture within the world, within us human beings, where it's like, well, what happened yesterday? Oh, I don't know. Doesn't matter. And we're just forging ahead blindly, in which to a degree we are doing 99% of the time because of humans being humans. But perhaps there's that 1% chance where we won't make the same stupid mistake that we did this morning by understanding what happened yesterday. I extend that back ad infinitum back into since we crawled out of the ooze, that perhaps if we understand what happened before, we could have a richer future and do things perhaps better and or learn from our mistakes. With that too, needless to say, I'm a history nerd, and obviously I have a passion for history. Perhaps that by doing this within historical Bigfoot research, I may not end up solving a Bigfoot encounter that happened 100 years ago. I may not be able to prove that a large, hairy, bipedal creature actually did interact with humans in one way or another, but I'll be able to provide a bigger, richer idea of what did happen, who these humans were, what did they do, why were they there during their encounter from 100 years ago. I'm hoping to provide a much larger story of Bigfoot history, of what is going on in my local area, as an example, in the Pacific Northwest, as humans living here, along with the rest of the animal world, along with Sasquatch. What does that mean? I don't know what it means, but my historical research, I'm hoping to provide a larger context that we can put that into, not only to, on a very primary level, to understand that humans and Sasquatch have been here for a very long time. That's on the very primary level, but perhaps more of what it means to be human and being in an area where Sasquatch reside as well.
Basically, everyone in the OP is a friend of mine, and I cannot emphasize enough how incredibly rare that is in my line of work. I've interviewed a lot of people over the years, and not one even comes close to the relationships I've developed over the course of making this series. They have fully put their trust in me and my filmmaking, and that's made this series feel a lot less like work and more like just making movies with my friends who do really cool things. And I would not have it any other way. Or maybe I'm wrong, and they're just people who deal with my flatulence.
I'm not sure what they're doing. Anyway.
Include that. You better include that.
That's
what This guy's a farting machine.
All Eli does is fart and shit and eat. He's like a baby. He's like a baby.
Fart, shit, and eat.
Which brings me to the final few things I want to say about this series. The first is a kind of behind-the-scenes look at what was originally planned for it. So, in the beginning, my plan was to include a few more stories that are no longer part of this series. One being the story of Cliff's Museum, the North American Bigfoot Center. If you've seen a lot of my work, you'll know that the NABC is very near and dear to me, and I've wanted to tell the story of how Cliff put that museum together in a documentary for a very long time. Well, I'm excited to say that I did it, and you can expect to see that on this channel come November. I honestly believe Cliff's Museum is the best Sasquatch museum in the country, and he and his wife Melissa put a tremendous amount of blood, sweat, and tears into its creation that it deserves to be showcased. And I'm so happy to be able to bring that story to you. The other story that I wanted to include in this series is the story of how Marcel discovered the Ape Canyon cabin site. And if you watched the 2025 project's announcement live stream, you'll know that that story is coming to life in 2025. This was an absolute dream project of mine, and I think the way the story is being told as its own film, apart from this series, was absolutely the right move for it. You can expect to see the Siege of Ape Canyon in 2025, and I'm telling you right now, it's gonna be so epic. The second thing I'll say is that trust goes both ways. Just as the OP has put their trust in me, so have I put my trust in them, and that's partly why this show has to come to an end for now. Back in February, in the midst of me planning a return trip to film more for this series, I got a call from Shane where he explained to me that he and some of the other OP members felt like this story shouldn't be superficially extended. What makes this series so special is that it is an accumulation of years' worth of research being presented. I didn't have to rely on uneventful night investigations to add to the runtime of the episodes. I could easily fill each one with audio, footprints, and other encounter stories to make them engaging. And so while it hurt to hear at first, I ultimately agreed, because the last thing I want to do is to make this series exactly what I was so discontented with when I started it. Sure, I could follow the OP guys around for years as they search for new evidence, filling episodes with investigations that aren't fruitful. Because although it doesn't look like it from this show alone, they don't find things every time they're out in the woods. But changing the show's format from the Olympic Project presenting their best efforts to making it a reality TV series would only weaken it. Not only that, but me being there all the time filming everything would change how they conduct their research. Part of what makes this series so special is that Rebecca, an OP member, was the one filming the whole thing, capturing Bigfoot researchers who weren't even thinking about having any of that footage aired on such a large platform. However, that doesn't mean it's over forever. The door is still open if I decide to come back in a few years, after they've discovered more. And trust me, it's already building. Last question, do you have any advice for the young people getting into this?
Do I have advice for young people getting into research? Yes, I do. I'm not the last word on this. I'm not the most intelligent man in the world, but I've been doing this a long time. And I think that a lot of researchers absolutely do miss the mark when it comes to seeing a Sasquatch or getting evidence. People deal with their egos. And a lot of times your ego will kind of screw up your effort if you don't check yourself. Again, there's a lot of researchers that gear up. They get on all this covert night op, all this different stuff to go out and try to film or to therm a Sasquatch at night. Well, it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. Maybe once or twice, but the number of things that have actually happened and the number of people trying to make them happen is very skewed, big time. If you want to see a Bigfoot, literally, if you want to see a Bigfoot, drive your car in the forest a lot, because that's your best chance, statistically. Literally. Road crossings are the highest chance of seeing a Bigfoot. I believe the second highest one is when they are checking you out when you're camping. I think that a ton of effort is put into, let me get all my gear on and go walk a Bigfoot down, go track one down. It's not gonna happen. I don't care who you are, it's not gonna happen. So I think changing that way of thinking a little bit would help. So I think if you're coming into this, keep your eyes open, leave your ego at the door. Don't embellish, ever. Only tell it like it is, and try to surround yourself with like-minded people. Keep it real, keep it honest. There's just zero room for bullshit in this field.
You know, I've been at this for quite a long time. I won't say I've been doing everything right the whole time. Definitely not. Joining the Littlefoot project taught me proper data collection, and then the fact that I wasn't doing that in the past. Wasn't documenting stuff properly, wasn't categorizing it. So my advice to anybody that gets into this, well, first of all, stay off social media as much as you can, especially Facebook. I realized that there was a lot of showboating going on, a lot of misinformation, a lot of nothing, and a lot of patting on the backs. The less time you're on there, the more time you have to spend in the woods, or even doing online research, or going to the library, or going to your local zoo, studying known animals and documenting areas. Second would be document everything. Document the known, find an area, stay in that area. You don't need an ambulance chase. You got too many people that go out there and here's a report, boom, run. Here's another report, boom. By the time they get there, usually there's nothing there. Now, there's nothing wrong with going after reports. There's a time and a place, and that's what you want to do it. But if you're really wanting to maybe have an area that you can study long-term, do that. Document everything. Document the known animals. Document the weather phases, the moon phase. Place recorders out there. Look for trace sign of known animals. Learn everything you can about that area. I think that's super important. A lot of people jump into this and they just go, well, I'm looking for Sasquatch. And they're completely missing everything or misidentifying stuff because they're not familiar with a noise a grouse can make, or an elk can make, or a mountain lion, or a bobcat, coyotes, owls. Familiarize with those sounds, those animals. That way, when something does happen, you can rule everything else out, and you're prepared to do that. And you're recognizing that you've captured something of significance. Yeah, and then have fun. Enjoy the woods. Work with people you like to work with. But enjoy nature, because evidence is rather hard to come by. And having a sighting probably won't happen. I'll just be honest with you. You never know. Lightning could strike. I was blessed with mine. Pure accident. Wasn't out researching at all. Fishing trip.
Read a book. Read a physical publication of some sort. Don't rely on the internet. TV and the internet is entertaining, but it's an electronic drug, is what it is. And a physical book on Sasquatch, it is not a passive interaction. It is an interaction with a physical thing that you're holding in your hands. And reading a book, reading a document physically in your hands, it's a different experience than sitting in front of a TV or a monitor. So number one, there's so many good books out there to kind of get started with. A lot of, mainly John Green.
Keep your skepticals on. The deeper I've gotten into the subject, the more skeptical I've become. You can't believe everything you read, you can't believe everything that people put out there, and today, especially with all the social media and the YouTube stuff, I really don't pay attention to any Bigfoot stuff anymore, because I don't care. Most of it's crap. I just kind of have my blinders on to what we're doing, because that's the only thing I can really count on is us and my circle and what we're finding. So anyone new, do your own research, do your own documentation, find your own tracks, record your own audio. Just focus on what you're doing and don't worry about other people's stuff. Yeah. There's a lot of crap out there.
That's about it.
That is about it. I think, yeah. Did we just discover Sasquatch?
No.
Oh, shoot, I thought we did. Well, crap.
So whether it's stumbling across a footprint find or recording 2 years worth of audio to review, Sasquatch research is made up of circumstance and great effort alike. And researchers are people who dedicate their free time and money towards the pursuit of something real. And it's not always easy, and there's often a balance one has to strike to not lose themselves in this search. whether that's keeping their skepticals on, or taking a step back from the search, or working through a deep-seated frustration by talking about it with a good group of friends. I created this series to capture that balance and how that affects them. And I think I've done that. And I couldn't have asked for a better group of people to have made this series with. And I look forward to seeing them again, further along the road to discovery.